The hype of config is over, and now you are excited to start diving deeper into the new features that were released so you can actually explore them and see how they can benefit your workflow. Today, I'm going to dive into Figma Grid. We're going to create a homepage for a website, and I'm going to show you how to use a less celebrated feature by Figma that will enable us to create this homepage much faster. Let's get into the file. One thing to note is Figma Grid is not one more product that was released by Figma, like Buzz or Site. Figma Grid is just one more option that was created within Auto Layout. And I'm going to show you where to find that just to get us started. So if I create a frame and I select this frame, even on the level of the frame, I have the ability to add Figma Grid as an option in the layout. This is where you would find Figma Grid. It's these 4 squares that exist under the layout option. One thing to note is before this config release, Auto Layout panel looked very different. If you're new to Auto Layout, I have a video that I created for you just to understand the full concept of what it is and how to use it very efficiently every time. Check that out if it's your first time. We only had vertical, horizontal layout, as well as the wrap option. But now, the grid option has become primary, and by default, if I were to select a frame, there will be no layout option, but this tab would be selected. If you hover on it, it says freeform. What freeform simply means, it's a fancier way of saying this is free from auto layout. That means this container has no rules. When it's in free form, I can simply drag so many items into this frame and I can place them wherever I want. You're already familiar with the previous 2 options, which is the vertical layout. The moment we apply it, everything aligns vertically within the container. Now everything aligns horizontally. And this is the wrap option. You can see it's hidden here to the right. It's only visible when you select horizontal layout. This is when you see the wrap option. It's not completely removed, but it's slightly more hidden. When you select it, items will move more responsively on the screen based on your layout. Before we dive into our website homepage, I wanted to quickly show you and give you a summary of Figma Grid and how you can actually use the component itself. So I'm going to create a frame once again with an F. And right here on the level of the frame, let's apply Figma Grid. In my right side panel, you will see the default was 2 rows and 2 columns applied. Here you have the gap in between. When I hover on it, you see it selected in the frame. It's highlighted in purple. This is something you can increase, just like the other auto layout options. You have a gap between the different columns, but you also have a gap between the rows. You also have the margins that you can add on the side right here, and same margins top and bottom. In addition to controlling them in the panel, you can control them in the canvas. This newly created component here that is interactive, that allows you to hover on the grid and select the number of rows and columns that are available to you. You have up to 12 columns and then 8 rows. Now this frame and this grid that is applied is completely responsive. So you will see as I resize it, the size of my columns and my rows changes. And this affects, of course, naturally all the content that we place inside it. We can drag multiple images or elements inside the grid, and Figma will automatically place these images based on their size. It's their size that initially dictates how they are placed in your grid, but then you can move them, you can adjust them as you please to create the kind of layout that you want. Now, naturally, because I'm having 3 photos here in this grid, I don't need to create 12 columns. I'm probably better off by creating 3 columns. And now that I'm trying to adjust it, you will see I'm unable to do that. I'm getting the message that because I have elements in this grid, it's not able to remove it at this point. I'm resizing my frame so we can see this more clearly. Now, once again, I'm dragging these elements and you can see it just adjusted them here. Now, within the grid, you also have the ability to adjust the columns and the rows. You will see there is this dot here that's initially set to auto. You can manually adjust this, or you can even type a number here to adjust the size or the width of this column within the grid. You can do the same thing here horizontally. So once you select that dot, you have the ability to resize the row or the column. Let's get started with our website homepage. And in order to do this very fast, I wanted to leverage another Figma feature that was not as celebrated or promoted by the Figma team. I'm not sure why, but it is the first Figma UI kit. So to access any UI kit in Figma, you need to come to your assets. At the time of creating this video, Figma has 3 UI kits. One is the iOS and iPad UI kit. And if you're excited to create an iOS app, I have a video for you that will show you how to do that. We have a whole project that you can create for your portfolio, which is an iOS mobile app. They also have the Android material design, and the latest that they have is a simple design system that is created by Figma itself. I'm going to select that, but I find it very handy to get us started. So if I click on it, once I've added this library, you will see we have all these components that are available to us. So from their examples, we can select either the About page or the Home page. I'm going to go for the About page right now, simply because it has so many other options that we can reutilize as a grid. And I want to show you how Figma created those previously before the grid auto layout and how we can optimize creating it with a grid auto layout. If you look at the web, this is an example of the Airbnb website. And as you can see, these are so many cards that are obviously laid within a grid. Another grid example would be on the Shopify website. If you go to their homepage, they have multiple images that are laid out. Whatever you're designing, especially in a website, you need a grid. And that's why the Figma grid is super handy. I'm going to duplicate this frame, and we want to get started from the beginning. So for my header, I don't need a grid, obviously. It's good as it is here. And this header, as you can see, has a horizontal auto layout with a navigation in it. These 3 components, whether it's the home image as well as the 2 images below, currently they're created as 2 separate auto layouts. But let's change this, and let's click F to start our own frame that we can place on top of this. We want to have a grid auto layout on this, and probably this 2x2 column and row is very good for us. We can get started with that. What I'm going to do just to show you is I'm selecting this element, I'm clicking Command X, and I will do Command V to place it in the grid, and I will stretch it right here to fill in my grid option. It's going a little bit over, so to change that, I'm going to select on the auto so I can adjust the size of my row, and I want it to match the width of this container. And I'm going to do the same thing with those 2 other elements. I will select it, click Command X, and come here to my grid, Command V, and rather than go back and copy it, if I click Command D on a Mac or Control D on Windows to duplicate it, Figma automatically knows how to place it in the grid. I'm gonna delete this section that we just duplicated, and you can see it's the same element. We have even more control over it, but by creating it with Figma Grid, it is super efficient. And for this to stop looking so plain, I'm going to show you, if you haven't yet used Unsplash, it's one of my favorite plugins in Figma. I'm going to click here on my toolbar, activate Unsplash, which is an image plugin that's available through Figma community. And I will select the different containers. I'm gonna select the food, a nice image that fits the hero in our website. Now the Figma UI kit has already applied an opacity to these images. Because they had a placeholder, all you have to do is select the image and go back to the opacity. You can remove the slate 200, which was for their placeholder. And if you select the opacity number, click Shift and arrow up. You will do this faster. You will increase the opacity back to 100, or you can simply type it. Next, let's jump to the second element, which is multiple cards that are aligned within your interface. Cards are very common patterns that we have in our interface, and very often they are laid out in a grid. So in this design system sample, you will see Figma has created these cards in a wrap format, in a wrap auto layout, so that once the page is resized, these cards will wrap up to fit on mobile and to fit on tablet, to fit on different screen sizes. And that's very useful, but the grid will also allow us to do that more effectively. To create these cards, they had to create 2 sets of rows, each one of them having this wrap auto layout, and then once again, the container is having a vertical auto layout. But that's no longer necessarily needed. Let's drag this outside and create the same container with Figma Grid so that it's more efficient. Let us apply the grid from the very beginning. And I can see already that I need 3 columns and 2 rows for the grid, but also I need a 3rd row where I can place my header. So let's select our grid. I'm going here and I will select a 3x3. I want to resize my top row. So I will select one of the elements in the grid. I will select the dot right here. I will resize this by clicking and dragging so that it matches approximately where this header subheader is placed. And I'm simply going here to copy this component, Command copy, and I will select the grid and do a Command V. Now to adjust it, I will select the cell. So I want it to be aligned center, horizontally, as well as vertically. And that's where I'm controlling the position of this component within the grid. If I want to match this container, I want to add a margin here to the whole grid. So there's 2 ways to adjust this. Either you can do it within the canvas itself, or you can increase it and we're just following visually how the other design looks like, or you can do it right here in the canvas. Because I've adjusted from this side, I've only adjusted the margin from one side. I want it to be the same from both sides. I'm clicking this individual padding element and I want to make sure these 2 match. So I'll give it an even number, 72, left and right. I will go copy this component by clicking Command V. Figma has aligned this card component to my very top row. I want to drag it and place it right here. The height is not that great, so let's adjust the height of the component. Once again, I would select the auto here for the row. And when I have this element, I will click and drag to match the height of the card. And one thing that's very handy, once I've placed this exactly how I want it to be, I can simply click Command D multiple times and Figma will place this element in all the different grids that I have created. That is very quick and very helpful. Now I want to adjust this row once again to match the height of my components. So I will click here and I will lift it up. I'm going to come here to the gap in between the columns. You can either do Shift with arrow up to jump in larger increments. You can simply type a number if you know what is the exact gap that you want. I'm going to just keep adjusting till this looks good enough for me. So I always go by numbers that are divided by 4 or 8 to match the 8-point grid. If you want to learn more about that, I have tutorials that can help you with that to understand how this translates into code and why it's important. Same for the gap between the rows. And there you have it. This is how we would use Figma Grid for this. And if you want to place this on your website homepage, all you have to do is replace this image and this content so that it is more appealing. Now, one more control that is worth showing. Let's create a quick calendar control in Figma Grid. If I click F for a frame, of course, measure it ahead of time and just make sure that this is the size of the control that you want. It's better to get started that way. I'm going to click on this component and I already know I need 7 columns because this is for 7 days of the week. And maybe for a month, we would need, it's either 4 weeks or 5 weeks. So I'm going to do a 7x4. I want to put a text component here. So I'm going to click T, a shortcut for text. And before I actually duplicate this, I want to make sure it's placed exactly the way I would want it in my layout. So what I'm doing is I made the span of this text go the full width of my grid. And I'm coming here to the text control in my right property panel. I will align my text center and I will also make it vertically centered. So by using these 2 elements right here, I'm able to do that. Now that I have it exactly where I want it to be, I will click Command D multiple times. And this is when Figma knows how to place this text everywhere I want in the grid. That is super handy, very fast. And now, to even take this to the next level, I'm going to use Figma AI to change the text. So this is the demo that they actually did in config. So I have the first text selected. I'm clicking shift and clicking to have all these elements selected. And you can see 35 selected, and replace content is already prompted by the Figma AI. Clicking on that, it's asking me for a prompt. So I'm going to say add ascending numbers and replace content. Now the Figma AI is working. And you can see it replaced all my text with the correct numbers. Obviously, I don't want 32 or anything that is more than 31 for this calendar component. And as usual, you can do any kind of styling that you want for this component, like adding a corner radius or anything that we want. We can create it selected states. There's so many designs that you can do, but definitely the Figma Grid is super useful in this kind of use case. Now that you know how to use the Figma UI kit as well as Figma Grid, you can very easily create a homepage or an about page for your website in few minutes. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more. I'm going to do a deep dive into all of the new features that are released by Figma so we can leverage them for our designs.